Podcast, another Authors Tuesday. Today I'm delighted to be joined by another great author, Tom Tom Fitzgerald. Great to welcome him on the podcast. He's a writer from West Limerick, from Limerick, and he's done a lot. So I'm really looking forward to welcome on the podcast tonight. So you're welcome along tonight, Tom. Thanks a lot for joining me.
No problem, Mark. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so no, great to meet you. And we'll start the podcast off. If you wouldn't mind telling the listeners a little bit about yourself, and the books you've written would be brilliant.
Okay. I always wanted to be a writer.
Yeah,
I started in my twenties. And I actually sent away for a correspondence course at the time. Of sorts, and it was. I can show you. That's that's one of the books. I still have it. So that's about 35 or 40 years old.
yeah, yeah.
To write for children, but that was the kind of stuff I was getting. So I had great interest in being a writer at the time. But unfortunately, life didn't go that way for me. I had to move off in a different direction.
Yeah.
So I had to get involved in my dad's business when he got sick, and that would have been an ecclesiastical decorators, that's 7 generations, and that. So my life went off in a different direction.
Mhm.
Um, and then in my 30s, and then when I had my kids and stuff, I started writing stories, making up stories for them, and all of a sudden the writing came back to me again in full force, and I started waking at night and writing in the middle of the night, and I was writing on pieces of paper and writing on corners of boxes, and anywhere I could find a space to write, I'd
Yeah,
write.
yeah,
So I didn't really know how it was happening to me. Because I woke up one night and I just wrote out the heading for 27 chapters, and I actually wrote a kid's book following couple of weeks. So that was the start of the writing for me, then really in earnest, and wrote short stories. I was turning about by the new time and just start writing really. So I sent away a manuscript in 2000 to a publishing company. It was an allegory on Ireland, a kind of an animal farm effort, and it was well received. But they said obviously it wasn't on their list. But they said they'd love to see what to do with adults,
mm,
writing about adults rather than animals for kids, and that's so.
yeah,
23 years
yeah.
later, I've published my two adult books. The first one, Underbelly, was published in 2022, and it's based in Kerry, and it's contemporary drama, a bit of a detective, or not detective, but there's a bit of a thriller element in it as well. And it's about a priest who was a soldier. He fought in Afghanistan. He gets a rural parish, and he starts getting involved with all kinds of people in the local area. Just so, as the name suggests, there's a nasty underbelly in the town. So
Mm,
based in Kerry, like I say, and it's been very well received. People like Billy Keane have read it. John Keane's son, he said it was absolutely brilliant. He loved it. Gabriel Fitzmaurice launched it, and Gabriel said that it had echoes of Ali the Squinted Windows and Play by the Western World. So that's huge praise indeed.
brilliant. Yeah, yeah.
Second then was launched in 2023, December, just gone by, and Roisin Maney launched it for me. That's called The Truth About Lies. It's based in Killarney, and it's basically a girl goes missing, and this guy gets brought in. He's of Irish descent. His mother was Irish, his dad was French, and he's brought in because the parents feel it would be a good idea to have him there. Because he knows the area.
Mm.
And I can't tell you too much more because if I do, I'll give the story away. But
Yeah,
he's
of course.
he's tasked with finding the girl, and he gets involved with some very nasty people in Killarney, and there's a booming drug trade in the town as it turns out, and he gets involved in that. So I can't tell you too much more, but
No, no.
somebody who has read that has said that he said my style is very much like John Banville, and I've also been likened to two other people. No, I won't be blown about it, but great compliments, really,
Great compliments. Yeah, yeah.
And they're actually the priest at home here in Askeaton, County Limerick. He complimented me off the altar. He said that he was the kind of man who read a book late at night, but he said he stopped reading because he couldn't put it down.
Wow.
Obviously, it's about a priest, but he said he just couldn't put it down. But he said he'd highly recommend it. So,
That's great. Yeah,
yeah,
congratulations.
so great compliments, really. I there's been many more, like people have said they can't put it down, and able to smile so answered, like he said, he read it in 3 sittings, which is again a huge compliment. So if you're interested in, or if people are interested in that kind of stuff, book forum, and people are asking for part two, well, which hopefully I'll be working on in the next couple of months.
Great.
That's the plan anyway. So
No, thanks for introducing us all that, Tom. That sounds brilliant. And do you have copies of your books with you for to show the listeners who are going to watch on YouTube as well, please?
yeah, that's Underbelly,
Mm-hmm.
and is that okay if you're that?
Yeah, I can see that fine. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The
Um,
artwork is very good. Do you do the illustrations yourself, or
no,
is
I'll tell
somebody doing
you,
that for you?
the books were published by Limerick Writers Centre Revival Press,
Oh, great.
and
Yeah.
there's a lady she does all the work there for Dominic Taylor in
Mm.
Limerick Writers Centre, and she's actually fantastic. That idea was totally theirs. And this one then this is the second one. Then it's about lies,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I worked on the cover with Dominic Taylor, the main man in the Limerick Writers Centre, and I just had 2 ideas, and that's what we came up with, and the name as well. We worked on the name as well. So they're the 2 books now, and like I said, they're actually, they're great publications, really, and they're very
Mm-hmm.
solid.
Very good. Yeah, they look brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
And where can people get them, Tom?
The Underbelly is up on Smashwords, which is and it was up in Barnes and Noble. Now I'm not sure if it's still there or not, and it was on Kindle, Amazon Kindle.co.uk.
Yeah.
Was up
Yeah.
on Amazon Kindle, like I say, but people were having trouble downloading it for some reason. But it's still on Smashwords. Underbelly. It's available from O'Mahony's Bookshop in Limerick, and it's also available from Limerick Writers Centre, and it's in the Crescent Bookshop in Limerick, and there are other places around West Limerick, which wouldn't really mean anything to anybody else, but I'm hoping to have it. It's also in Clare, in the Banner Bookshop in Clare, and both their shops in Steinman and Kilrush, and the other one in the Story About Lies is the same. It's in O'Mahony's in Limerick, and it's available online from O'Mahony's. It's not up on Smashwords yet, but hopefully it will be. But that one, the Truth About Lies, is actually in Limerick Writers Centre. I think I sent you the
You
picture there
did.
of.
Yeah, you did. It
Yeah,
looks really good. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Very
I'm
good. Yeah.
surrounded by a lot of famous names, and look,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Great stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, if you give me all the links, I'll share them all in the show notes as well for people to check out.
yeah. No
Uh,
problem. Much appreciated.
uh,
Yeah.
and have you investigated? Have you looked at getting your books in the libraries as well?
They would be, as part of the deal with the publisher. They automatically they're it's kind of incumbent on them to put the books in the library.
Oh, very
They,
good. Yeah.
yeah, in as part of the publishing deal, we'll say there's X amount of books published for the library specifically.
Oh, very
So,
good.
and the ISBN and everything is involved in all that, so that has to be registered with the libraries.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
So
Very good.
they're there, yeah, like that. Hoping, like I say, I'm hoping to go a bit further than Limerick, and like I say, it's gone to America, to a few places in America as well, and I'm getting great feedback from it. I am liking that's not hogwash. Like I said, there is great feedback about it, and people are crying out for a second one. So hopefully, people will get it on Smashwords, and if they do and they like it, I'd appreciate a bit of feedback as well. There.
Yeah. And I can see there what you sent. You've been a regular included in West Limerick Radio Christmas
Apologies, yeah. Yeah,
for
the
the last few
Miscellany.
years.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Miscellany. They do Christmas. Specifically, I'm in a writing group, Scribblers writing group in
Mm.
West Limerick, and our Scribblers writing group, and we do stories now. They don't have to be Christmas stories, but I did a few Christmas stories for them, and again got great feedback from them. I was published in anthologies in Limerick Writers Centre as well. That was
Brilliant, yeah.
actually one of the things, for anybody listening who's maybe thinking that their time has passed for writing or whatever. I'd, I'd be proving the opposite, because like I say, I thought my time had passed for writing as well, and then I got involved in Limerick Writers Centre, doing a creative writing course, and it was for older people. And it was done by a guy called Ron Carey, who's from Limerick originally, but he's in Dublin. And Ron went on to do a master's, and he's one of the he's a couple of books published now in poetry. He'd be very well known around the country.
Yeah.
Um, and he ran the course, and that kind of gave me a shot in the arm to get the writing going again. And you realise that you're able to do it to a certain extent, even though when you're listening to the other people's pieces and writing, you'll be saying, why haven't they published, you know? But
Hmm.
then the long story short, the COVID came, and first or second lockdown from COVID, I had to undergo a triple bypass operation.
God, yeah.
And in conjunction with the bypass operation, I actually did a 22-week short film course to produce the script for a half-an-hour movie. And I did that in spite of being told that I shouldn't be doing it, because my mind wouldn't be right after the triple bypass. I had the drugs and everything, but I did it anyway. And I turned out my 30-minute script and for the film or whatever. And fantastic experience. What it did was it sharpened the writing for me. It really sharpened my writing and my intellect. And I found myself in out the book as well and going back to the book. I had written the book called Friends and Neighbours, and it was a huge volume. I split it, and I got the two books out of it. And the first one was Underbelly. So luckily, I sent it into Limerick Writers Centre to know would they be interested in publishing, and they were. And the rest is history. So I have two books published now after triple bypass and after COVID.
Right.
And I'm getting, I had two hips done later this year. So God only knows what I'll produce after that.
Yeah, yeah. But it just shows you, like, from diversity, what you can actually
Yeah,
accomplish, really, isn't it? It's great.
it is that, like I said, there's a message, because I've met loads of people, and that can write, and they're afraid to write. And there is my daughter got me a book called The Artist's Way, and it's Julia Cameron. You probably have heard it before.
Oh, it's a great book. I read it myself. Yeah, really, really good.
And
Yeah.
the other one then is The Writer's Way, I think, is that as well. And that really was like, just like my new best friend. 'Cause every
Mm,
fear and doubt you ever had
yeah.
is actually highlighted in there, and you know it is you, and you say, I was afraid that this was, that this was kind of me or whatever, but it's actually she went through it all. She
Hmm.
holds you by the hand and takes you through everything. And the second one is just as good, like it's a big course or whatever, like, but and great support on that. And it was one of the reasons I think I actually finished out the manuscript for the first one, because that book, and the time I kind of felt lack of confidence or whatever, I just went back into the book and did it. And as you read it, like the morning pages, all that kind of stuff, they're fantastic,
The
So
artist dates and all. Yeah.
all that, yeah, it's all
Yeah,
great stuff,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and but you
You've
have to.
you've jumped ahead of me there, Tom, because I was going to ask you a little later on about your favorite read. So
Sorry.
there you go. Yeah, but
Yeah.
no, that's great. And would you mind maybe just reading maybe a little a part of Underbelly for people as well? Because that's very exciting about the movie. Was it a short movie? Was it, Tom?
It was, yeah, but it won't. Unfortunately, it won't ever. It won't ever see the light of day. I don't think it will anyway. Like, but it was a great experience, and it was, like I say, it really sharpened
Yeah.
your writing skills, because you had to. Your first thing was to do a premise, a two-sentence premise for what your film was, like
Right. Yeah.
like they do in Hollywood for all the big films, and then
Mm.
you extended your premise into the next level, and then you kind of set out where you were going with it, and then you had to write the script for it, and you had to try and fit it all into half an hour, starting from scratch really. And this was a course that was done through the Arts Council or in Limerick and Clare, I think, and it was a free course. There was a lot of very well known people on it. I don't know if it was all right to mention names. Um, but is it okay to mention the comedian's name?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, Carol Spain was on it. He did the course, and I found myself in that kind of company. And there was there's an actress in it. She's on First City there. Conroy's her second now. I can't. She killed me. I can't do her first now. But she was in it, and that's so like all those kind of people were doing it. You know, so you found yourself in good company, but you were really under pressure. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It took
It sounds
on,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So like I say, I was lucky that I did it because it really gave me a shot in the arm, and it helped me
Right.
get through the recover with the triple bypass and all that kind of stuff. You know, so it was great. So
And it's so important to stay positive, like, you know.
well, that kept me going,
Yeah.
and sometimes it nearly had me out my ear, like because it was you were saying, "Why am I doing this for? Will I finish it?" But then because of the writing aspect of it, I really challenged myself, and I wanted to get it done. You know, so
Yeah. Mm.
and I I don't know. I've often said that creative writing meetings like this courses that you feel like you're writing and you're competing with people who have honors degrees in English and all that kind of stuff, and you're saying, where do I fit into all this? Like, but I think it's we have the stories inside you that come out, and it's just so like I say, when you're in company like that, you feel like maybe you don't belong, but then you start working and you realize that you can. So
Mm. Yeah,
that, that,
exactly. Yeah.
that
Boost the
yeah.
confidence big time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a great experience, like I say, and I hope no Carol didn't mind me mentioning his name. But I'm just looking for one and something I don't know glasses now.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
You'll kill me. There was yeah, I just there are a few underbelly is it's divided into there's two parts in it actually. The first part kind of deals with the town and the people and the few things that set off the trouble in that, and then I just in the blog I read the blog for you, Mark,
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it might help with the bit I'm going to read.
Yeah.
A teenage boy witnesses a physical attack on an elderly man in a local wood and is immediately threatened by a menacing stranger to keep what he saw a secret to ensure his father's safety. 2 days later, unknown to the public at large, the corpse of a supposedly penniless drunk disappears from his coffin when reposing in a secluded rural church. The events conspired to turn the life of local curate and former soldier Father Liam Heckerty upside down. When the boy's future well-being is thrust on his shoulders, Liam's commitment to try and find peaceful solutions to all conflicts to the extreme when he is forced to become an unwitting troubleshooter. As the poisoned underbelly of their town begins to be exposed, some locals in the foothills Kerry village of Knockhaven discover that some of their friends and neighbours are far from the people they imagined they were. Instead, they are cold, calculating individuals who will stop at nothing to satisfy their sexual and financial desires. Oh, that's the blog anyway. I got your attention with that.
Yeah, that sounds very good. Yeah. I'm looking to get a copy of that myself.
Um, the other one, I'll just see if, like I say, I know if I can find where. Yeah, that's it. And this centers on the guy that was stolen. The corpse that was stolen. He was an alcoholic. He was and he was penniless, supposed to be. So he was in the he went into a meeting or he went into a pub and he got drunk, and there was a meeting in the same pub for lo- for the locals for community alert scheme. So he wanders into that, and I'll read that chapter. So if that's okay,
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
and I hope it isn't too long. The function hall meeting room in Barrett's pub had been booked for 8 o'clock for the meeting about community alert scheme. Given there had been the spate of break-ins and attacks on the elderly across Munster, the organisers expected a large turnout. They weren't disappointed when over 60 people turned up. Before the chairman called the room to order, people were standing or sitting around chatting. Some were conversing out loud, others were whispering privately. The news of an escaped pet camel owned by a retired circus master from a nearby town was a rare occurrence worthy of light-hearted discussion. The one-humped Arabian was still at large. Thick hilltop mists cloaking the valleys were hampering his owner's search for him. The meeting started 20 minutes late and was running smoothly until Terence Sheehan disrupted proceedings. The 65-year-old alcoholic bachelor had been drinking since mid-afternoon from the same stool in Barrett's well-worn timber counter. For almost 5 hours he had been drinking, dozing and nodding off to wake up abruptly to continue drinking. Customers who had misfortune to come in when Sheehan was awake were subject to either insult or typical drunken cavemeal faulty from the bleary-eyed drunk who stank of sweat, beer and urine, the latter aroma getting progressively stronger after each trip to the gents. By 8:30, teenage barmaid Katie Brown had endured enough. She asked him politely to leave. Mr. Sheehan, I will give you 10 minutes to drink up and leave. If you don't leave by then, I will ring the guards. With his head tucked into his chest, Terence chuckled boozily to himself before lifting his bleary, bloodshot eyes, which eventually worked in unison to focus on her. Ah, love you, sure, I'm only having an old drink. Give me another one for the road and I'll go then. Buy one for yourself and me. Then sit down here beside me and we'll have a good old chat, he plumosed. Ignoring his bull, she grasped his drink from the counter. Sheehan's face darkened, and a growled, vitriolic tone, he heaped a string of insults at Katie about her well-endowed body before recounting his vision of her family history with Mutz. Then the gruff, inebriated drunk left the bar, shirt hanging out, trousers flying undone. He left the bar room, but he didn't leave the premises. Unknowns to Katie, he slipped into the meeting room and leaned against the sidewall, rocking drunkenly from side to side. Intermittently, he mumbled abuse to those seated nearest to him. Bastards and robbers, all belong to you, he murmured to Nellie Casey, who was sitting dead in the row of seats nearest to Terence. Clearing his throat forcefully, his fat flame on the floor at his feet. Community alert my ass, he continued facetiously. A crowd of old nosy parents. Give me the money and I'll get my own protection. It comes in a bottle and you drink it. The constant disruption to the meeting eventually forced the chairman to suspend the order of business. He politely asked Terence to take a seat or leave. Yes, Mr. Chairman. No, Mr. fucking Chairman. Terry by his emotion to fucking propose. Kiss my ass, Mr. Chairman. Kevin and Keith were sitting together at the opposite side of the hall. Keith's eyes were rigidly fixed in Terence's direction. Just say Keith is an 80-year-old woman. Sorry for interrupting. Why doesn't somebody catch that bloody waster by the scruff of the neck and throw him out, she remarked. If someone doesn't do it, I'll do it. Continued in a raised voice. Enjoying the unscheduled entertainment, Kevin, her grandson, whispered into her left ear. Do you want me to do it with your grand? He teased. You take his hands and I'll take his legs. Kevin was joking, Keith wasn't. Got up from her seat and speedily traversed the hall to confront Terence. She grabbed him by his left coat sleeve and dragged him unceremoniously to the end wall exit door. Shoving the door open with her free hand, she released her grip on him and pushed him towards the open door with both hands. Get out, you bloody nuisance, she ordered. Terence was stunned, but not for long. He turned, made a fist and swung in Kit's direction. The brazen hand was grasped tightly and suddenly from the side. Go on, Terence. It'll be the last time you hit anyone, quietly suggested Polly, Kit's son-in-law. Jack had arrived late to the meeting and had stuck into a chair at the back of the hall. When he saw Kit leaving her seat and heading in Terence's direction, he had moved discreetly in unison with her. Turns didn't have to be warned twice. He had had occasional verbal spats and a single physical altercation with Jack in the past, and lost both by a huge margin. He wouldn't to give up. With a glare, he stumbled from Barrett's onto the cul-de-sac and into the night, where the early May evening light had dulled under dark rain clouds and the fluorescent streetlights were warming up. 20 minutes later, Terence was leaning against the left wall of the bridge, cigarette in mouth, glaring at the exterior of Barrett's. He was having a drunken rant to himself, periodically cursing in the direction of the curtain winds of the meeting point, facing onto the river. He lit another cigarette immediately after scarring the butt of the other one. Halfway through smoking, he decided to find a rock put it through one of the meeting room windows. He staggered from the dimly lit bridge back to the cul-de-sac and headed for a gap in the pivot. First a short distance to the riverbank, he started fumbling around for a rock at the edge, which was barely a few centimetres across the waterline. The sounds of surface ripples intensifying his direction went unnoticed at first. The ripples became little waves lapping onto the bank and splashing onto his shoes and lower pants. He became aware of them and lifted his head to peer into the shadowed half-life of their source. The strong smell of damp animal hair caused Terence to sneeze. The sneeze and motion caused his head to dip momentarily downwards. As his head rose slowly, he caught a close-up of a hideous animal foot and felt the hot breath on his neck. A disgusting odour flooded his nostrils. As his line of vision lifted, he tried to ignore what his eyes were relaying to his brain. Fucking camel! Terence's senses reeled. Impulsively, he turned to run away, scrambled backwards and fell in the bank. He struggled quickly to his feet and flailed aimlessly in the camel's direction. Turned to run away again, slipped and rose twice before eventually finding his feet. He fled through a different gap in the hedge and onto the cul-de-sac. His drunken blindness, he then ran left onto the main street. The young female driver of the orange camper van with the yellow French registration plates hadn't a chance and plowed straight into him. There was a dead thud. Terence's crumbled body frame hit the ground like a sack. Her mind in disarray, instead of braking, the driver accelerated forward. Her front left tire crushed over Terence. Blood squeezed from every orifice of his body. No.
Yeah, that's very well written. Yeah, very well read as well.
Thank you.
Have you thought about an audio book for it? Is that something you've been looking at, or?
I haven't really, but I'm only starting. I'm only getting to know myself with the books and that, and I'm going to start slow and see where it takes me.
But thanks a lot for sharing it. It's really good at giving the listeners a good idea for the book. You know, it's
Yeah.
Plus myself. Yeah.
Well, all I can tell you is it continues in the same. It's just the same pace all the way through, and it does. It does get very good. There's some very nasty characters in it, you know. So yeah, it's good. I'd have to say.
That's the best thing about reading. Like, you know, you're getting a movie yourself. Like, your imagination's so good, you can you're getting the gist of it, you know, straight away.
Yeah, it is. No, it is, and I've read it a couple of times since. I read it. I did all my own editing. Unfortunately, about 5 times. When you're doing your editing, you get so tired of it, you just.
Oh, it's tough. Yeah, it's tough.
You know, you just you're meeting yourself coming back, and you say, "Oh God, when will this come to end?" And you say, "Did I not take that out the other night?" And so you have to take a break, and then I've read it now that is published a year ago, so I can read it now. And it's actually very good. You know, I'm very proud of myself again. So
very well done. Great stuff. It leads me nice on to the next question I was going to ask you, Tom. Do you kind of have a kind of a strategy you use with your writing?
At first, Mark, I didn't really, because like you said, it was kind of just erratic the way I was writing. I just wrote, and I think what I'm finding out now that I read about writers and things, and bits I was reading back years, is that a lot of writers write because they have a problem themselves in life and they're trying to figure it out, and they consequently write. And that's why I was writing the letters, because I'd probably getting angry with things or whatever, and I'd write to the paper and send it off,
Yeah.
and then you maybe someone would say something, and I'd be thinking about it. Next thing I'd write a short story about it, and I'd find that I was answering, solving my own problem in short stories.
Yeah.
So now that I have books, 2 books published, I kind of have to call myself to heel, and I have to have a strategy. So I'm trying to, as of what's in front of me now, I won't be working for the next 5 months because I had a hernia, a a sudden hernia operation Stephen's Day, and that's put me out of work for 3 months. And the hip operation was pushed forward, so I'll be out for another 3 months. So I work for myself, so then obviously there's very little going in the door. But that's another story. I might write a book about that as well. But um, so I'm going to have time. So I need to work. I need to have a strategy, and the strategy that I'm working off is I either read, and then generally I'd read maybe for an hour and a half, someone else's work, and then I'll write for an hour and a half, 2 hours. But it's uh, what I'm learning from Julia Cameron as I go along through her books is that sometimes you can go outside the boundaries, but she suggests maybe do 2 pages a day, which in fairness isn't half bad. Like if you could turn out 2 pages every day, and she said you come away happy and glad that your day was fruitful. So I'd be thinking along those lines, but I normally find that when I write, I just want to keep writing.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
then
Yeah.
write longhand, and then when I come back to read my own writing, I have trouble reading my own writing.
Hmm. Yeah.
So my strategy to answer your question would be read for an hour and a half, do something else, and write maybe for 2 hours if you can. And I think there is a school of thought there that says that 90 minutes really is, for most people, is a good, that after 90 minutes your mind's kind of, you're not focusing or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think it's for everybody really. That's what I'm learning,
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any rules, but I think you kind of have to have a bit of a strategy. But
Definitely.
like I say, I'm lucky in a way. I suppose what's coming up in front of me, time off, I count it as a blessing, and hopefully I'll get book 3 done,
Yeah.
and
Definitely.
that's the plan.
Yeah. And
Other than that,
you mentioned as well on your bio there about your family, like generations in decorators. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
yeah, they were all decorators, and my dad would have been. He had 3 brothers, and his dad died, so he kind of had to take over. But he they had a fantastic reputation, ecclesiastical decorators, and they did churches up and down Munster. So they were very highly trained. Excuse me. And I used to read notes and things he got from bishops and this, that, and the other thing, and all very complimentary. And work was the work was spit spot, and when you went into the church, you treated it like the house of God. And convents, we did a lot of work with convents. It was the same thing. And they wanted the work had to be top notch, but you got paid accordingly, obviously. But you you just had to have respect for everything. So they did a fantastic trade or did quality work. They were real craftsmen, real old fashioned painters and decorators.
Mm.
And I took over from my dad. But then in the 90s, I think something like 70% of my work just disappeared because the convents closed down and everything changed. And then there was a change of work practice. All brushwork we did, but then it became rollers and sprays and things. And the work we were doing was one was kind of the old school stuff,
Mm.
and it wasn't required anymore. So we were kind of left behind. So there was a fair sea change. And then the lads that do the spraying and things now, they're fantastic because they could spray anything for you, and the work is top notch again. But that's different training to what I got, so I didn't really belong, you know. But the one thing I did learn was from it would be patience and spending a lot of time in your own head, because when you were painting timber, woodwork, and things like that, and repetitive kind of stuff, you had a lot of time to think. Um, I think it was a blessing for me in that respect, you know.
Mm.
So I used my time well. I used to listen to the radio and things like that, and then I'd turn it off for a while. And of course, the radio would be throwing up different stuff, and you'd be listening to the current affairs and everything that was happening. You'd be up to speed with what was going on in the world, you know. And
Yeah.
we used to read the papers and things like that. So that was the reading I used to do. I wasn't really much for reading books. It's such like, but so like you said, the I think the painting and decorating was a very creative thing, and all my people they were sign writers and French polishers and
Yeah.
plastic things. And so like my dad, the Lord have mercy on him, he would have only had a vocational education, and he had a crew of about 25 or 30 fellas on the road like that. That'd be testimony to his own creativity and what he was able to do with it, you know. So
What does
oh,
that tell you?
I owe
It's
him a lot of it, you know. Yeah.
what does that tell you? Like, it's you've got other side of different talents that you can use.
Well,
Yeah.
that was the plan for me. Was when I started, man. I did went to college and I did construction technician, which would have been a draftsman.
Mm.
That's what they were called at the time. And I did 2 years of that, and I worked for years, and it was all, say, with computers now. If you want to draw a house, now you just feed it into the computer. But
Yeah.
that time, drafting was done in pen and ink, and everything had to be spit as well, you know. So it was all concentration. So I suppose it worked a part of my brain that was involved with writing and things. Maybe I don't know way back when I didn't know about it, but it was all it was really detailed kind of stuff. Like if you were doing a brick house, you'd have to draw every brick individually with an ink pen, which was fair going, you know. So I did that, and then I went back to, because my dad got sick and I was paint. I did a bit of painting during the summer, and I kind of wanted the outdoor life. And I intended to go on and do interior design and the writing as well. So it was all there.
Mm.
Life didn't go in that direction. I had to take over the business or whatever, and that's what happened. And then the writing came back to me, which was great. Came back with a vengeance, really, because I used to just sleep at night, I'd be writing. So and that kind of thing is happening. So it's you just wonder what's going on, and you kind of think, are you a bottle short of a six, basically, you know. But obviously, it was whatever was in me was driving me, you know. So
Yeah. No, it's great you've discovered, it's something that you're talented because, like you said earlier on about you making stories up for your kids, I do the exact same thing, and it's great to give you inspiration.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
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 to find that.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I had a lot of. I still have them on the computer somewhere. I started. Oh God, I started 3 or 4 kids books. I finished 2, and there's one there that I have given out to kids, and they loved it. And I might maybe try and make something of that. But at the moment, I'm more invested in the adult stuff.
of course. Yeah, yeah,
And then I had started a few other kids books and things. And who knows, maybe I might go back to those, you know. But there's only so many hours in the day and so many hours in the week, like so.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And,
and I'm yeah.
did you have any book launches for your books, Tom? Did you? Did you?
I had a book launch in December for The Truth About Lies, and it was Roisin Meany launched it for me.
Right, right.
And so Roisin doesn't need any introduction. Like she taught me to be care. She said, "Be wary." She said this she said she's very doesn't spare people. So she certainly didn't spare me with her introduction. Um, I only vaguely know her really. I met her on Listowel Writers Week, and in fairness, she kind of she said she launched it, but at first she didn't really know. She didn't remember me or whatever. But and she said so much when she was doing the launch and that, you know. But no, in fairness, no, she was very good, and obviously it is great to have somebody like that to front your day, you know. So the launch went very well. There was a lot of competing events on the day, and I think in the week before the launch, I think I asked about 25 or 30 people to different things, which was a lot of people. But on the day, I'd say I sold a lot of books, and I think I was only 5 short of Limerick Writers Centre's record for selling books on the day, you know. So
Right.
no complaints
Successful.
there, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah. And can I ask you as well, did you ever experience when you're writing the books as well, writer's block, like you've hit a brick wall like I know in Julia Carmen's book, The Artist's Way, she does talk around writer's block.
Yeah, no, at the moment, I'm in that territory at the moment because, like I say, I had emergency operation at
Mm,
Christmas, and
yeah, yeah.
I'm just kind of getting over that. But I'm trying to work my routine, and it's kind of it's fear is there, and I think Stephen King, he's quoted in one of her books, and he said the scariest moment is just before you start when you're writing the book, and
Yeah.
certainly that's.
Yeah.
I have the first chapter written, um, and the second one came to me yesterday, and I'm just reluctant to sit down because there's a few other things going on at the moment. I want to try and clear the boards, but um, normally what happens for me is I find that I'm thinking about it and thinking about it, and it's like it's building up inside me, and it's just weaving itself inside me. And for the first 2 books, I had no choice but to sit down because it could have broken me if I didn't write down and get it out. And it was like, I know that some writers have described writing as you feel like when you're getting rid of your book, you actually feel like you're getting physically sick and you feel very empty after it. And this, when you get a few days or a few weeks behind you, then you want to eat again, which means you want to write again.
Mhm.
And that's my experiences will be crossing with that, you know. And it is daunting now to, and Roisin Mini did say that after how many books she has written, and bestsellers included, she said it doesn't get any easier, you know.
Mm.
And I did find before when I was writing, like was I very fertile or something? That's what it feels like. That it's got that I just write. Now it's a daunting prospect, but recently for our writers group, we had to write something, and I wrote a story, um, just out of nothing. So I'm quite happy that the mechanics are working still, you know. But it's the first chapter of the part two, the underbelly is written, and the other one, the rest of it is forming in my mind, you know. And you're always afraid then will I be as good as the next one, or I keep my voice, and what is my voice? What be like or whatever. But I think you just find your own voice anyway and keep going. And with Julia as a best friend, go around, you know, every time you have a problem, just refer to her. I think that's my safe zone, really, you know.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, yeah.
But
Because do you use
yeah,
work off prompts yourself, Tom, in your writers group? Because I'm in the Irish Inkslingers in Dublin, where you work off different prompts. How do you find that? The, is that something you do?
in our writers group, we just possibly people would read something they might have done, or just bring up something if you want to write about something or whatever, and invariably people would have something to write, they have something written,
Hmm.
and then uh, last couple of turns the chairman kind of said, look, we'll have an exercise. Um, Next week the exercise is whatever, and some people do it, other people don't. Other people say, look, I didn't do the exercise, I wasn't interested, but I did something else. So it, it's a shot in the air. I'm like, someone described that to me, that this writers' weeks are creative writing weekends, are like a shot in the air. And with the writers group, it's the same thing. I think you go there and you just you'll get your exercise, and if you have nothing in your mind, the exercise will help you. You know, that's prompts. They're the same prompts you're talking about. They're all prompts. Like, and there's no pressure really. It's just
Yeah.
want to do it, and but they're the only prompts in that I would be using. Like I say, my prompts for writing the books would be just kind of in the back of my head, and it's whatever I see in society.
Right,
You know,
yeah, great stuff. Yeah. No,
yeah.
yeah. No, thanks a lot for sharing all your work. It's great. And everybody that's listening and watching, make sure you pick up copies of Tom's work. It's a really really good. Fitzgerald. So can I just ask as well some of your favorites as well? Your favorite books to read as well. I know Julia Carmen is a big book for you, but like I know you're saying you don't really read much. You haven't read much books in the past, have you? Or
I hadn't I hadn't really read because I don't know if it sounds off the wall or if it. I mean, I was always writing without reading, and I like to say I used to read the newspaper every day faithfully. I'd read it from cover to cover.
yeah,
Well, that was probably my reading, maybe, but just always had a gut instinct that I wouldn't read other people because I didn't want to be influenced by their style.
right, yeah, I understand.
And I know that I know now that it's a mark of disrespect to other writers because you should be reading their work for them. So I started reading a guy called James Lee Burke. I love his stuff. Um, and I read John Grisham. I read John Banville. And normally, actually, just you were saying about a prompt, I'd pick a book in conjunction with my writing, and I'd start reading the book.
Right,
And
yeah,
I'm reading the book in the morning, and I'm writing in the afternoon. So I'm reading someone else's work,
mhm,
and then writing myself in the afternoon. And if there's any passages in the book that particularly grab my attention, I might take a note of them, or there might be a few words or things like that that I wouldn't have heard before. And I just go to the dictionary and I see what that word means. And that kind of sparks or just stokes my creativity, I think. So that's the way I work. I get mind open with reading someone else's book. And like I say, James Lee Burke is someone that I read because he's got a character called Robert Joe. He's a detective. Um he's very hard hitting and he doesn't put a tooth in it. Um but there's a lot of there's a lot of similarities the way he thinks about things and the way I think about things now. I don't know if a lot of the stuff he's would say with people of color and everything else, the way he writes about those things. Um, I'm not sure. And if anyone out there has ever read any of it, I just wonder what their opinion is on the way he writes. But I think it's balanced. Um, and but he would be, I'd say he'd be coming from a Confederate background, and so that comes across. But then there's the balance as well.
mm,
But like I say, I read his stuff not for that reason, but I read his stuff because it's very gritty, and I find it just it relates to a lot of the things that I think about myself, and my own stuff in life. And then John Grisham, I mean, he doesn't need any explanation. Like he's just brilliant at everything. So I read him, and then I pick up a random book, and I just read the cover, and I'd say, yeah, I'll read this now in conjunction with next weeks, and that's what I do. I read it, and then as I'm finished, I'll get another one. I'll read that, and I'm right
That's
with
a
that.
great strategy. That's a really good strategy, Tom. I think that sounds a good strategy there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it distracts me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time it distracts me in a positive way and I'm actually reading, and it's not my own stuff, so there's no pressure. I don't have to. I just read what they're after writing and I go along with it, and it's grand. It just gets you into the zone, and then you give yourself your break, and then you have your 2 hours for writing your own stuff, and
Right.
your mind is open, I think. And that's the only way I can describe it, really. So that works for me. So maybe it might work for other people as well, but they would be the people that I'd read by and large. And I have tried other people, and I know someone had said to me about there's no sex in my books, and and predominantly it would be, like I said, at my lunch, it would be women that would be saying it now, and it would be people they wouldn't be in the first youth, like people that would be saying it, you know. But I'm kind of divided on that subject, whether you need to have
Mm.
that kind of stuff or not in it, you know. And at the moment, but I would have read books maybe that would be um romances and things like that, and just to get a few ideas, you know, and whatever. And for as long as I can get away with it, I try and keep them out of it, you know.
Yeah.
This
It's
is
whatever
one.
whatever your story really is it as well, isn't it? It's
It
whatever.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Mhm.
just something that came into conversation and things along, and someone said that that's not really a woman's book, and then the conversation would have ended into sex and things like that. That's where it came from, you know.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I like to think that my books can be read by men and women. And in fairness, a lot of women have said, "Jeez, yeah, I loved it. It was a great book. I couldn't put it down." And
Right.
you know, you'd
That's
be
testimony. That's testimony to it anyway.
well, it is, and
Yeah.
you'd be hoping that you know, I know that money and sex sells and that kind of stuff, like, but
Mm.
I'd be hoping that you'd have a story strong enough to
Definitely. Yeah.
pull it on, really, you know.
Mm.
And like I say, I won't give away any spoilers. But the one that's on sale at the moment is I suppose I should have read the blog for you for that one, should I?
Yeah. Please. That's
Um,
great. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, for the truth about lies.
Yeah. I was just going to say that to you. Great. Thanks.
Set in present day Killarney, the story revolves around the abduction of a 23-year-old French law student, Marie Clairmont. Believing his Irish heritage will be a crucial asset in finding her, Marie's parents hire French-Irish private investigator, Nashoba Nash, in brackets, Savary. Sergeant Jim Lucy heads the local police, who are already overburdened with their workload. The resentment the presence of an external investigator will arouse amongst his officers worries him. Lucy faces another issue. One of his officers is working for local Eastern European criminal Christoph Chenko, career criminal who has vowed revenge on a female police officer. As Savari investigates Maria's disappearance, he crosses paths with Chenko and is plunged into Killarney's criminal underworld. Truth and falsehood interfuse to bedevil the search for Marie Clairmont. And there's just a few things about that. The name Nashoba Nash Savari, Nash is his nickname. And without giving away too much, Nashoba Savari, Nashoba would be, it's a Choctaw Indian name.
Okay.
And Savari would be a French name, but I think it would be also an Indian name as well. Surname, and I can't remember now exactly there, but um, Nash, then he has the nickname Nash because he was in Ireland, so that it works in nicely. But the reason I've used that is because it was a kind of, I have acknowledged it in the back page. It was to say thanks to the Choctaw Indians for during the Irish famine. They sent over money
Right.
to help the Irish.
Mm.
So it is my way of saying
Oh, very good.
thanks, and I
Yeah.
think the character Nashoba was actually born out of my desire to say thanks.
Wow.
So that's just an added bit of information on that one. And he has connections to Limerick, and he has connections to Ireland. And people have asked me why Killarney, and why Killarney's criminal world. And I think the reason, or I know now the reason why I set my books in Kerry is because of the scenery and of the beauty. And
Lovely. Yeah. Mm.
I know, and everybody else knows, that there is a there is a culture in the background that we want to ignore, or we always ignore, but it's there. And I think that's why I balance the beautiful scenery and the surroundings with criminal underworld and what goes on in the background. So it's perfect kind of a background for me to put in the bad characters.
It links up very well there. Yeah.
It does, yeah. And I think when I was passing through Fines, actually, there a couple of weeks ago, I had given out my books in Clare on the day, and there's a ferry from Kilrush over to Tarbert. Kilrush is in Clare, and the ferry comes over to Tarbert in Limerick,
Mhm.
and or in Kerry. So I came over on the ferry, but on the way back to Fines, that boat that all the drugs were on in Fines, that was actually docked in Fines. It was there a couple of weeks ago,
Okay,
and
yeah.
my story has echoes of that in my story in The Truth About Lies, and I just said it was very timely actually.
It's a great name for it. It's a great name for the book, yeah.
It is so. She probably won't remember me, but Ginny O'Sullivan was there, the RTE commentator, the
Yeah,
RTE journalist. She was there.
yeah,
She was doing a story, and of course, being the kind of man I was, I took the ball and the hop, and I gave Ginny a copy of The Truth About Lies, and I
fair
said,
play. Yeah,
um, "Good book." Now I said is all about a boat as well. So
yeah, yeah,
she took that with her anyway. So hopefully she enjoyed it and she read it. So
fair play. Yeah,
um, yeah. So
no,
like I say, you have to take the ball and the hop, So I guess I did. So that's The Truth About Lies now, and like I said, that's the genesis for that. That show, but it was born because of my desire to do something for the Choctaw Indians, and just to say thanks. And the other bit in, like I said, balance and the natural beauty of Kerry, because people have said to me, why do you do this about Kerry? There's bad people in Limerick. But of course, there's bad people in Limerick, but I said Kerry is a beautiful place, and you don't expect that, because the majority of the stuff is written in Ireland. I think is written about Dublin, and fine, it works because it's a massive city, and you would expect all that stuff there. But I suppose it's happening everywhere. And
yeah,
it's
it's good
fine.
and bad everywhere. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
yeah,
That's the reason I write. And hopefully,
yeah. No,
I've written.
that's great. Thanks very much, Tom, for sharing that. That's absolutely brilliant. And I'm looking forward to getting my hands on the books myself. And as well as that, kind of what keeps you motivated, Tom, in your writing as well? Just lastly,
Um, I think the desire. I think to just write. I I suppose you'd like to think that, or I'd like to think maybe that like everybody else, you're on the fence, but you're trying maybe to give a message there that for younger people and things and stuff like. And you can say that this is a beautiful place. It's like Dublin recently and the rights and everything, and people said we never thought we'd see that in the capital city, but I mean that can happen anywhere. It can happen.
yeah,
I think it's bubbling under all the time, and I think that's what motivates me to write. And then when I track back to the guy I mentioned there, Chris Luke, there at the start, that's actually his book. He's A Life in Trauma. Um,
yeah,
he reading in his book, he worked in emergency medicine, and he talks about drugs in London and in Glasgow where he worked, and he said the epidemic, and he said we're facing that epidemic here in Ireland, and I suppose there's a kind of there's a parallel for me the way I think about things, and I think that's why I write.
great.
Um,
Yeah,
and it keeps me going, and I think if I can work something in there, and if it helps one person or two people or whatever, if I without moralizing, I mean it's not soapbox stuff. You can't be on the soapbox. You have to be even, and I try to be even, and I hope my
mhm,
writing is even and it is balanced. And maybe there might be just there. They're the reasons I think are right, and that's
great
why I
stuff.
keep
Yeah,
writing.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
and
What's next for yourself, Tom? What can people look out for? What's next for you?
I be hoping I would have enough for a book of short stories, but I'm hoping that I'll crack the second underbelly,
Right.
and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
will be hopefully that'll be the project for 2024, and that I'm at home with recovering after the operation.
Well, best of luck with all that. Yeah.
That I'll get to do it, and it'll take a lot of doing, like, but look, challenge is not, and life is not without a challenge. So I'll either rise to it now, or I'll be talking about for the rest of my life about two books I wrote. But I don't want to be in that category. I'd like to be more than a two-hit wonder. I'd like to keep going, and maybe my own experiences, which would be varied in a lot of ways. Try and work those into, like, I suppose, like everybody else, try to work into the body of the work like that. And that's really what I'd be aiming at. So
Yeah,
hopefully to keep right with me.
I wish you all the success going forward, Tom, with everything you do, and thanks a lot for coming on the podcast.
No problem. And I'll send on the
Yeah,
links. It could be a day or two now, Mark,
yeah,
before I
yeah.
get around to
No,
it. Is
that's
that
fine.
okay?
Yeah,
That
that's fine.
would be
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Yeah, because myself and IT, we're not the best of friends, and
I know. Yeah.
I'd be afraid to put my hands near the computer in case I blow it up. So
I
um,
wish you all the success going forward, and I wish all the best of health as well with all that's happening.
yeah, no, thanks, much appreciated. And with the help of God, I'll be on to again some other time,
Yeah.
and hopefully your listeners will enjoy what we were talking about. And thanks very much for the opportunity.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, we'll get you back on again when your next book, your next novel's out.
That'd be
Great.
great. Well, there's
Yeah,
there's another incentive now, all right.
yeah,
So hopefully I'll be talking to you again next year with the help of God.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you one more thing before you go? Sorry, just ask a lot of listeners come in because lately I've been listening to some music when I write. Do you ever do that yourself, Tom?
Yeah. Music. Yeah, I listen to music a lot. But what I tend to do is I get high in music, I suppose.
Mm.
Depending on the moods and things like. And I know that music affects different parts of the brain. Like, so when you're in a certain mood, but that's not the reason. Like I'd um I'd put on a load of stuff that I'd put on Tin Lizzy, AC/DC, Def Leppard, all that kind of stuff. That'd be
My
one.
favorites as well. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
tends to shake everything inside your head.
yeah.
Um, and then you kind of you're on, it is like getting high, and then you have a kind of
Low.
down
Yeah,
and low. And then I like country and western as well. I like a lot of the stuff. Yeah, I would like a lot of country and western stuff. That's another stuff. And then I go back into the past for, yourself, the 80s was the best music ever written.
oh,
Like, so,
class. Yeah, brilliant.
yeah,
Get you there.
like into the 70s and the 80s and things like that. And, that kind of stuff. Like, so, yeah, I would, yeah, I'd listen, all right. And like I said, it can be great for lifting spirits and,
Definitely.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
but it isn't great for the ears now because I put on the headphones and, but I wouldn't listen. I was listening to the kind of stuff that you'd hear in chanting and that kind of stuff because it's supposed to relax the mind when you were writing it, but I
No,
can
no,
handle that now. No.
no.
So you like the metal yourself as well, do you?
Well, I'd like listen to music with no lyrics. When I'm maybe writing,
Yeah.
I find it kind of it kind of getting a flow. That's what I find.
What kind of stuff do you write? Is it fair to ask yourself?
Well, I've written a children's book, and I've just launched. I'm just launching another one tomorrow night. For anybody's
Right.
listening as well, it's um it's a children's book as well. So the first book was The Adventures of Larry Lamppost and Friends. Was a lot of funny stories within that book. So I've written a complete second book, and I've taken little stories out of the second book to make it's a bit like Mr. Men books, the Mr. Men
Right.
books. So
Yeah.
that's the same kind of idea. So so that's what I'm doing.
You send down a link to that for me, please, as well,
Yeah,
for
I will
when you get a chance. Yeah.
be happy to do that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, that'd be great.
Thanks,
Much
man.
appreciated. Yeah.
Okay, so Tom,
All right.
Tom Fitzgerald there, everybody. Thanks so much for coming on, Tom. I really appreciate it. Great talking to you.
No problem. And thanks for having me. All right. And thanks to your listeners for
Yeah,
listening.
just stay on the line for a second. Stay on the Zoom. We'll have a chat before you go off there. But
No problem.
thanks everyone for listening to Mark's motivational podcast. Another great episode with a great author, Tom Fitzgerald, who shared a lot of his great work and his great books. So make sure Underbelly and The Truth About Lies. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So make sure to check them out and join us again for another podcast. And just remind you, for anybody living in Ireland or Dublin, to come along tomorrow night to the International Bar. I'll be launching my book. Thanks very much and take care. Thanks, Tom.
No problem.
Hello, everyone. Mark here. Thank you for watching another episode of my Authors Tuesday podcast. I recently published a book of children's stories called The Adventures of Larry Lamppost and Friends. The book began life as bedtime stories I wrote for my own children. If you'd like to purchase my book, follow the link in the description box below.
By buying my book, you are also supporting my podcast series for authors, which is giving a voice to writers in Ireland and across the world.